about this scenario. Your team is deep in a conversation about the architecture for your new agentic feature. There's a lot of technical language flying around, and you're the PM in the room. You're not expected to build it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can't engage with those decisions, you're not owning the product. I can tell you. The PMs who have the most impact in the agentic era aren't the ones who can write the code. They're the ones who understood the stack well enough to spec it, challenge it, and make the right calls before the wrong architecture shipped. That's what this episode is about. No code required, but you need to know this stack. 6 minutes. Let's get into it. If you simply write, use an LLM here in a PRD, then every architectural decision that follows gets made without you. You can't challenge whether the approach chosen is right for the use case. You have no visibility into whether your agent is working or quietly hallucinating in production. And over time, you get cut out of the most important conversations, not because you're not capable, but because you don't have the vocabulary to contribute. Here's the shift. Agentic products need a new PM artifact, what we can call as the agent spec, not a PRD with a vague AI bullet. A real spec that answers 5 questions before a single line of code gets written. Which type of model and why? Which workflow approach? What the memory strategy is? What success looks like before you ship? And how you'll know if it breaks in production. That's the stack. 5 decisions. All of them yours to own. The first decision is the model, the reasoning brain of your agent. And here's the key insight. Every major provider today offers multiple tiers. You have a fast and cheap option, a balanced option, and a most capable option. The names change, but the pattern doesn't. The PM question isn't which provider should we use? That's an engineering preference. The PM question is, what is the cost of a wrong answer in this particular task? High stakes, billing decisions, contract terms, compliance-sensitive outputs, use your most capable tier. Worth the extra cost and latency when being wrong really matters. Everyday tasks, product recommendations, search ranking, summarization. Use your balanced tier. Good reasoning, reasonable cost. High volume, low consequence. Use your fast and cheap tier. This is where most of your agent calls should be routed if you're building at scale. Smart. The second decision is the workflow approach. What actually turns a model into an agent? A model on its own just generates text. The workflow layer is what gives it a sequence of steps, the ability to call tools, the logic to handle errors, and a way to return a final result. There are 2 fundamentally different workflow types, and knowing which one you need is a PM decision before it's an engineering one. The first is a simple, linear workflow. Your agent follows a fixed sequence of steps every time. Best for tasks that are predictable and repeatable, where the path doesn't change based on what the agent finds along the way. The second is a smart, adaptive workflow. Your agent can loop, branch, and self-correct. It evaluates its own output before taking the next step. Best for complex tasks where the right path forward depends on what the agent discovers as it goes. The question to ask your team before building a product spec: does our agent follow fixed steps, or does it need to think and adapt along the way? Now, the 3 layers almost every PM needs for agentic products. The memory store. Without this, your agent has no memory across sessions. Every conversation starts from 0. It's like hiring someone and wiping their memory at the end of every shift. The PM question: what does our agent need to know that isn't in the immediate request? And where does that live? The quality check or eval framework. This is how you measure whether your agent is actually doing the right thing before and after you ship. Without it, you have no way to know whether a new release made things better or worse. The PM question: what does success look like for this agent, and how are we measuring it before we go live? The black box window. This shows you exactly what your agent did in production, step by step. When something goes wrong, and it will, this is how you find out before a user files a complaint. The PM question: how will we know in real time if our agent is failing? Here's how to bring all of this together. Before any agentic feature enters sprint planning, walk your team through 5 questions. 1. What's the cost of a wrong answer? And does our model tier choice reflect that? 2. Does our workflow need to follow fixed steps or think and adapt? Simple or smart? 3. What does our agent need to remember across sessions, and where is that stored? 4. What does success look like before we ship, and how are we measuring it? 5. How will we know in real time if the agent is failing in production? If your team can't answer all 5 before you start building, you have a spec gap. And that gap is your job to close, not engineering's. 3 things this week. 1. Take one agentic feature you're working on right now and write down the 5 stack questions. Try to answer them. Every gap you find is a conversation you need to have in planning phase. 2. When your team next talks about the model or workflow approach, ask the PM questions from today. Cost of a wrong answer, fixed versus adaptive workflow. See how the conversation changes. 3. Ask whoever owns your current agent build, what's our quality check before we ship? And how will we know if it breaks in production? The answers will tell you a lot about where you are. That's episode 3. Episode 4 is coming out soon. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you there.